Well, it was about a year ago that Budweiser, and more specifically Bud Light, got into some trouble by using an influencer that turned out to be fairly unpopular. With us is Scott Baradell. He's an expert on branding and trust, and I guess Bud Light still hasn't got out from underneath this controversy. Welcome, Scott. How are you tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me.
So, Bud's been trying, I know, very hard. I watched their ads during the fall and winter with Peyton Manning and some other football players, and they really try to develop some ads that were going back, I guess, back to their roots. Apparently they haven't worked. What's going on?
Well, I guess these days, something that used to be true of brands is you wanted everyone to be a potential customer, and you didn't want to offend anybody, and you wanted to please everybody. It's like Michael Jordan famously said, Republicans buy sneakers too, and
Absolutely.
So he didn't want to align with one political party or another.
Right.
And Bud Light, in this case, has kind of made the mistake of trying to please everybody and ultimately pleasing no one, because they first aligned with Dylan Mulvaney, the transgender activist who had come to prominence by interviewing Joe Biden in 2022. So he was a politicized figure beyond being someone who was transgender. So that was kind of the first issue, because that alienated people who didn't align with that politically. But then Budweiser came back and tried to say, sorry, and so they didn't back up the stance they took, which made them look wishy-washy, which nobody likes. And so what they've done to try to make up for things has only made them look desperate and insincere.
But they had a bunch of ads last fall, did they not? With I think was it Emmitt Smith and Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning, yes. Oh, they've tried a lot of things. I think they brought back the Clydesdales and all of the kind of the patriotic imagery that they've been associated with. But it just felt like a clumsy reaction as opposed to something authentic. And that's what people want from brands today. Brands today in 2024, you have to understand that this is a polarized country, and you've got to really make sure you understand the values of the people that you're selling to. And if you try to do what Bud Light did, it's going to blow up in your face.
Now, Bud Light also, if I'm not mistaken, is the parent company of another light beer called Modelo. Is that how that's pronounced? Modelo?
Yeah, Modelo, and they're the new number one beer.
So Modelo is the number one. Is it light beer or beer all around?
Beer all around.
Beer all
Bud
around.
Light had been number one. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the number one beer all around. Where does Coors Light and Bud Light stand at this point in that hierarchy?
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that before the Dylan Mulvaney controversy, Bud Light was already declining. It was number one, but it wasn't growing.
Okay.
And so it's really just greatly accelerated a decline that was already happening. In fact, the new head of marketing for Bud Light, who was behind and was let go after the Dylan Mulvaney campaign, had cited, hey, we've got to do some things differently because young people aren't buying Bud Light. And so that was true before. It's just that what they did in I think probably a misguided attempt to attract young people turned off a lot of people in their existing base. And so where they stand exactly on the hierarchy is I'm not sure, but it's not. The bigger thing is that it's going in the wrong direction. It keeps going down the list.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm sort of neutral in this fight. I'm a Coors guy. I became a Coors guy back. Do you remember when Coors Brewing was? It couldn't be sold east of the Mississippi. This goes back, I think, to the 1970s. And if you could get a six-pack of Coors, if someone flew to Denver and brought you back a six-pack of Coors, you were, now it's probably not the greatest beer in the world, but it's what I drink. I'm a Coors guy. And so I've kind of watched the whole Bud Light thing from afar and thought to myself, this, I don't have a dog in this fight, but it's interesting to watch companies make mistakes. I think, do you remember when Coke came up with a great idea called the New Coke?
Right.
That kind of bombed. Are there some other? I remember as a little boy when I guess it was Ford that came out with this brand new car called the Edsel.
Yeah.
Are there other companies that have made similar mistakes to what apparently Bud Light has made here? Putting aside, whether you are open-minded or not towards towards alternate lifestyles. Let me put it like that. Are there other companies that have also fallen into this trap?
Oh, for sure. But I was going to say about New Coke, the interesting thing is how they turned that what would have been a disaster into a win by using it as a way to kind of herald back, the classic Coke. That's how they came up with the classic Coke brand, which of course became the dominant brand again, and they were seen as trying to be like Pepsi with their number one competitor with New Coke, and it really led them back to a successful kind of reorganization around the kind of the original brand and the original taste of Coke. It's interesting, what I have a book called Trust Signals that I talk about how brands that don't make sure their values are aligned with those of their customers can get in trouble. So a case where it was successful was Nike. Nike aligned with Colin Kaepernick, and of course Colin Kaepernick is a better known and more controversial figure than Dylan Mulvaney, right?
Sure,
but because Nike knew its audience, Nike had done its research, which Bud Light clearly didn't do, and they knew that on balance, its audience would like and support, or certainly not, burn their sneakers because of the relationship with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is the exact same month, most people don't realize, the exact same month that Dylan Mulvaney did the promotion for Bud Light, he did a promotion for sports bras. But you never heard anything about, a collapse in sales of Nike sports bras because it's a different brand with different customers. And that's what it comes down to. Research your customer base.
In terms of sneakers, I'm a New Balance guy because New Balance is a Boston product, as I'm sure you probably well know.
Yeah.
Scott, I enjoyed the conversation. I think it's fascinating when you really get down to this, where big companies just it isn't that they commit suicide, but they come pretty close. I mean, Bud Light's always going to be around, I'm sure. But I guess there have been some companies that have put themselves out of business, and maybe we can talk about some of those next time. Scott, I appreciate the insight very much. Scott Baradell, how can folks follow you, get in touch with you? What's your website? What's your Twitter handle? What way can people follow up with you?
Well, I have a firm that helps firms with reputation management and things like that, and It's Idea Grove, which is like a good idea, and orangegrove.com. Mm-hmm. And the book I have out is called Trust Signals, and you can just Google that in Amazon and it'll pop up.
Sounds great. Again, give me the brand, the name, the title of the book.
Trust Signals: Brand Building in a Post-Truth World.
Gotcha. All right, that sounds great. Scott, appreciate the time. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.